Alrighty, guess we're live here. Um, Welcome. This is the Burn KC ScorchCast. Your typical Sunday evening activity, I hope. My name is Alex Blackburn, host of the Burn KC and writer. And today we got a few things to talk about today. Um, Obviously, we got some news of Jayhawks in the NBA. Basically what I went over this past week in terms of articles, so high school recruiting, a few rugby updates to throw in, a couple things with the Chiefs, and of course some poll results and viewer comments. So sit tight, enjoy, and let's just jump right into it, shall we? Perfect. Also, one thing I wanted to mention before I get too started. Obviously, I'm using this new ring light camera. If it makes me look like a ghost, let me know. I will try and change around the lighting in here. Right now, I got it dark in my kitchen, which is where I film these. But if, maybe we'll need a light or something along those lines, just let me know. So, let's just jump in. So, there's been a few things regarding Jayhawks in the NBA. So that means Christian Brown, Ochai Agbaji, David McCormick, all three in the Summer League, as well as Marcus Garrett and Devin Dotson. And all five have done fairly well. Even Quentin Grimes, too, who transferred to Houston but was a Jayhawk, is also doing well. So it's good to see that kind of production. Obviously, Christian led the Nuggets in his first game, which is really impressive. I think he's going to be a great player for them. Just needs to develop a few more things, and then he could be a star. He led the game with 18 points. I think he was 5 of 9 from field goals, which is really good. And then he had a few more pretty glaringly good, I should say, stats. So he had a great game. Ochai had a good game with 16 points over 30 some odd minutes, and even Dave performed well. He missed the dunk, but immediately rebounded it and put it in for a field goal. So that's the Dave that I'm sure Jayhawk fans are just used to seeing at this point. But it was good on him. It truly was. He came away with 10 points off 19 minutes. So I'm hoping we'll see more play time from him. Certainly hoping so. And then he had a couple great rebounds as well. I think he had 6 or 7 of those. So if you're an NBA center, you want those numbers to be just a bit higher, but that's pretty good for your first NBA action or NBA-esque action. But it kind of... So, news with the NBA Jayhawks kind of took a damper today, or over this past week, I should say. Devontae Graham got arrested for a DWI on Thursday in his hometown of Raleigh, North Carolina. I think he's held on a $3,000 bond. I'm pretty sure he's been released. But that being said, that is not good for Devontae's NBA career. It's actually fairly detrimental. He was doing really well those first couple of years with the Hornets, and moved over to the Pelicans, was doing pretty well with them too, and then he got hurt and saw a pretty major decline in production once he came back. He came off the bench a lot more than he normally did with the Hornets or when he was first starting out with the Pelicans. So for him to get a DWI in a case where his money's not guaranteed is pretty bad. I hope the best for him. I'm sure it was just a honest mistake. Obviously, some honest mistakes cost you more than others, and You got to be accountable for him. But I hope that this doesn't cost his NBA career. That would be pretty terrible. I think he has a lot of promise as an NBA player, and I would hate to see that go to waste. Obviously, as Hawk fans, we are getting a new crop of NBA talent coming in that looks pretty promising so far. But if he were to either be suspended or be cut, it wouldn't look good for Devontae. I will say that right now. He was one of my favorite players while I was at KU, so this is just really disappointing. But again, we'll just have to see. Stupid games, stupid prizes. You hate the sinner, not the sin. Excuse me, you hate the sin, not the sinner. So it's kind of just a not great situation. Let's end it on a bright note here. I apologize, but a bright spot for sure is Christian Brown and Ochai Agbaji will be playing each other tonight. I think it's actually going on right now as I'm speaking. So I will probably turn in for that second half once I'm done here. So you should too. Go watch the cream of KU's draft class. Go play. I think they'll match each other up well. I hope that Christian Brown doesn't call him the B word. But if he does, I'm sure Ochai would understand. So it'll be a fun game to watch, I'm sure. So I'm definitely looking forward to tuning into that after we get done here. It's over on ESPNU. I believe it started at 6, so we're probably about end of the first quarter area into the second. So plenty of time to catch him. So, and then another topic that I've been meaning to cover on my website, but it's really been a hard topic for me to discuss, not in terms of like, oh, it's a tough topic to talk about, but it's just I cover professional sports and I cover college sports, so covering high school sports was always kind of like well, we'll see. But I think I'm going to end up doing it. And I think once the high school season rolls around, I will be covering high school sports in the Missouri and Kansas area, so keep on the lookout for that. I wanted to mention that, but the reason I wanted to mention that is I've been seeing a lot of commitments from local guys like Dylan Edwards, guys like Avery Johnson, who, yeah, we're at Derby, but it's still Kansas, and it's still close enough to where Missourians and Kansans should care about it. Another top prospect that committed to Mizzou was Luther Burden, who was a St. Louis guy. And I guess the point that I'm getting at here is, if you haven't already read the article, of course, is Missouri and Kansas high school football is on the rise. I think a lot of people are finally recognizing what the Bill Snyder method. I think I am seeing a lot of Division I programs shop local now, which is refreshing to see, honestly, because it was tough to watch guys that I knew at my years in high school football that I knew had Division I talent, but just didn't get recognized. And it's tough to see. I mean, they ended up getting scholarships elsewhere, but free college and everything like that. But it was tough to see pretty much everyone but K-State go after the local guys, because there's great high school football in this area, not only on the St. Louis side or the Wichita side, but here in Kansas. And here in Missouri, you got programs that are perennial um, football factories like Blue Springs, Rockhurst, St. Thomas Aquinas, Bishop Miege, Blue Valley, uh, others. There's plenty others, truly. And it's exciting to watch these kids get their chance with a local school. I think that's extremely important um, for these local colleges to be local D1 colleges to be pursuing these guys and giving these guys a chance because a lot of them have turned out well. I mean, Skylar Thompson, who is now with the Miami Dolphins, he was a K-State quarterback and he went to Fort Osage, which is in Independence, so South KC. We also got guys such as Isaiah Simmons, who went to Olathe and shined there, shined at Clemson, and is pretty good in the NFL. Uh, there's talent here that I believe has been untapped. And I think that uptake in talent and I think that recognition of talent has increased since I've been in high school exponentially. And why that is high school football has become somewhat of an arms race, just like college football. You're striving for the best facilities, the best, not recruitment, but the best, getting the talent crop out of the student population. I think you're getting a lot more kids excited about football. You're letting them know that there is a bigger chance to succeed now that you guys have great facilities, you guys have great equipment, you guys have coaches that have been there, coaches that have connections. That's probably the number one most important thing is coaches that have connections to these Division One programs while also having some Division One experience themselves. We didn't see a ton of it when I was in high school. I know that I had a couple coaches that had really great college careers, whether that be at the D1 or D2 level, and I believe one of my coaches even did some time in the NFL. Obviously, that was what that was, but you can see a change is what I'm getting at, I guess, is I think this change should have happened a long time ago, personally. I think there was the talent there that just didn't get noticed. But I think now with the areas such as Lee Summit, such as Parkville Riverside, such as Overland Park, Olathe, Shawnee, these places are growing in population and therefore student size and class size. I went to my little brother's graduation. His class size was like 470 something, which mine was 370. So that alone is proof right there that this area is growing and the talent crop is getting bigger. And that along with coaches that have these real world connections and have these college Division One connections really makes a difference for these kids. And I'm excited to cover it because frankly speaking, it does now, at least it does play into college football. So it'll be fun to maybe get some interviews going with administrators or anything like that. Obviously, I do have a couple school administrators watching this, so if you are watching this and want to talk about it more in depth with me, don't hesitate to give me a shout for sure. I'd love to speak on it. Obviously, I shot out that call to people to be interviewed or people to sponsor and everything, and I meant that. I would love to expand my content for sure, and part of that is getting interviewers on and getting people that know what they're talking about or would just be fun to talk to. So I really think that that would be beneficial to get an administrator's perspective from that or on that. Um, Moving on, we have a few rugby updates. The Blues finished fifth at the St. Louis tournament, the Gateway Sevens tournament, and there's been a bit of poll movement in terms of the Midwest Conference and who's going to nationals and who isn't, or who's going to the, you know, the, the Midwest Championships and therefore has a chance at nationals. But the Blues are in a better spot than I think people might think. Um, I think with the Blues, Des Moines, Des Moines, which is the team that was number 5 out of the top 5 that are going to that national tournament. Des Moines had some issues with their scoring or something like that, and the Blues might be in, which is exciting stuff. They might be going to Chicago. Uh, they had a they've had a couple of great showings these past couple of tournaments. The chemistry is built, the fluidity has developed, and it looks like a better rugby team than what we started with. And I think that's the job of the coaches that were involved as well as the players. I mean, the players, obviously, the effort that they put in is absolutely incredible. They could have laid down, they could have given up, but they didn't. And they rallied behind guys like Coach Kevin Schwartz, rallied behind Coach Derek Pearson, Scott Cram, Darwin Nelson. They rallied behind these guys because they knew that they were just as driven as they are to make this spot in Chicago. And by all accounts, I think they've done it, which is great news. I'm excited to see how that qualifying side does at the national level. There's tough competition in the Midwest, but they've shown that they can hang with them. And I think the further this chemistry builds, obviously it's nearing the end of summer sevens, but it will carry over into fall, and I think it'll carry over into a very successful fall season, which fall is 15s for those that don't know. And it's going to be interesting to see. Good luck to the boys. Obviously, we got training and then the float trip coming up, so that'll be some fun times. So, moving on from the Blues, though, USA Rugby beat Chile last night with the score of 22-21, closer than a lot of people would have liked, I'm sure. Chile is not the greatest rugby nation in the world. We aren't either, but we're building and pulling out close wins like we have against the French Barbarians and Chile as of recent is promising. I would like to see those gaps widened. I would like to see a limit in complacency because I think there's a lot of that when it comes to USA Rugby is they get up and then either aren't fit enough or just don't have the manpower or willpower or something like that. It looks like they're a first half team, and that's not good for rugby. You got to play both halves. And that's why teams like New Zealand are so successful. Teams like South Africa, Ireland, France, they're so successful because they have this depth, because they have this talent crop, and because they have this commitment to development that USA Rugby just doesn't have. And I think if there's more of a focus in the coming future, the U.S. is a force to be reckoned with. We have a ton of athletes in this country that don't limit themselves to one sport. So let's capitalize on those as well as the youth level and build this game. And then obviously I've kind of gone through the TV spiel with Flow Rugby and the deal with Fox Sports and everything like that. I don't think I need to beat that dead horse anymore. Um, if you missed it, go check out the last the last ScorchCast, and go see my thoughts on it. I think there's a lot that can be improved on, but these most recent 2 wins are promising, albeit too close for my personal comfort, but I mean they're W's, and we'll take them. So, and by the way, they're already qualified for next year's World Cup. The men's team is, and the women's team is also qualified. So, no need to worry about that. We're still a regularly qualifying team from the Americas, which is a plus, but the Americas is not that great at rugby, aside from Argentina. But we're getting better. And I think by the time we host the World Cup, I think the United States will have a serviceable rugby team, a serviceable rugby program. More, or an even better so, a good one. I at least hope. It's a sport that can gain a lot of popularity here, and I truly believe that it can soar to great heights in this country. So, anyway, moving on to the Chiefs. There's not a whole lot going on in terms of the Chiefs. You got, those post-draft. We're kind of in a dead period when it comes to the Chiefs because you're past the draft, but you're not quite to training camp yet. Training camp's in like a week. So there's just not a ton to talk about with them. But there is one key aspect that I wanted to talk about when it came to the Chiefs. And that is the signing of Robert Quinn. Or the potential signing of Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn, if y'all don't know, is a Bears defensive end that has had a great career thus far. I think he's kind of plateaued a little bit when it comes to playing on the Bears. He's still good, don't get me wrong, but played on the Bears for one, and then two, it doesn't look like we're going to get, if we do pursue Robert Quinn, a guy that, I mean, we'll get a veteran presence on the defensive line, which is great, but we're not going to get a whole lot of years out of him. And I guess the Chiefs should ask themselves, do they think they can develop George Karlaftis or any of the new pass rush guys or the guys that have been there for a bit but just still haven't proved themselves? Can they develop those guys to replace Robert Quinn? And that should happen in a year or two, not 3 years down the line. Do I think Robert Quinn has a lot left in him? Yeah, but the question is, does he believe that he's got a lot left in him? Does he believe that, football is, as a defensive end, is cool to play until you're, in your 30s? What I'm saying is, I don't expect him to be a Tom Brady. I don't expect him to play till he's 50. But he could bring a veteran presence. And I think the more you add to this Chiefs defense, and especially the pass rush, which is probably our main weakness right now for the Chiefs, the better. I still think we have a serviceable enough defense for us to be successful this year, but I also think that having Robert Quinn on that line wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. So that's pretty much really the only Chiefs stuff that's gone on. I mean, obviously, like, training camp's here in a week, so we're going to hear, a lot more stories in regards to who's making the roster and what rookies are looking like, what UDFAs are looking like, and maybe a free agent signing or two. but pretty dead for the Chiefs. And same goes with Sporting Kansas City. Sporting Kansas City obviously is in the midst of a pretty hard era, a pretty hard year, but it was to be expected. I think they got the W over Montreal today, though, if I remember correctly, which from what I saw of that game, the highlights that I saw, they looked pretty good. Roger Espinoza had a pretty good goal from what I saw on Twitter. I don't really watch all that much soccer, unfortunately. I mean, it's 90 minutes of guys kicking a ball around. Don't get me wrong, soccer games are great. Going to them live, not on TV, unless it's like an international game or something, not the MLS. But one more topic that I wanted to talk about I know it's everybody's favorite topic is the Royals. The Royals have exactly one All-Star, and that is Andrew Benintendi, otherwise known as Trey Bate, number 2. Maybe number 1. I don't know. I mean, he is an All-Star and just got injured, so... But that being said, one All-Star for the Royals. Obviously, it's been a disappointing year for them. No one's really stood out in terms of skill or in terms of, All-Star playability. And it's looking like it's going to be a lost year for the Royals, which is nothing new. I think the main thing, obviously, is play the young guys. I think the main thing is to keep playing those young guys and to just ride out this season and try and capitalize on world victories. I don't think you have any chance at the playoffs unless you, by some miracle of God, turn this team around or fire Cal Eldred and hire, I don't friggin' know, Justin Verlander to your pitching staff. It's mainly the pitching. It is. I'll just be honest. It's mainly the pitching, and I'm not going to say heads or tails that it's all Cal Eldred's fault, but it kind of is. That run differential just doesn't look good. Our bullpen does not look nearly as good as promised, and it's just tough to watch this team compete. But there are bright sides. Obviously, Benintendi making the All-Star game is great. Nick Prado made the Futures game at first baseman for the AL, which is, again, exciting. I hope we bring him up because of his success, but we'll just have to see, I suppose. And then Vinny Pasquantino is doing pretty good at DH. I think he's got the power. Just needs to find that connection. And I think that's the same thing that Bobby Witt Jr. struggled with throughout his first couple of games. But now he's settled in, and again, until an injury happened, and hopefully that's not too serious either. The Royals are once again a wait-and-see franchise, and I think the Royals fans are getting tired of waiting. But these moral victories help keep the fan base interested because there is that potential to be good in the next couple of years. So, again, just hammer the long game, play the young guys, fire Cal Eldred, the lot. I'm not producing any hot takes here. I think this is the main consensus of the Royals fandom. I really don't believe that any Royals fan thinks that Cal Eldred should have a job or that we shouldn't be playing Nick Prado or Vinny Pasquantino or any of the other young guys that Carter Jensen. I don't know about young pitching per se. Obviously, with Cal Eldred still there, I don't want them to get ruined. Much like Brady Singer and Asa Lacy. I guess they're not quite ruined yet. I mean, it's only their second and third year, so we'll just see. Um, I, I I have my doubts that the Royals will find someone that will make them world beaters again, but there's still time to save their careers. Um, but yeah, just needed to talk about the Royals. You know how I am, bitter but honest about the Royals. But let's go to some poll results, shall we? And a couple polls came out this week, and a couple of viewer commentary and everything like that. So let's check and see what we got going on. Da, 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 Sorry, I am looking at my phone, trying to pull up the posts that were polled and whatnot. Shout out to y'all for sticking with me. I appreciate it. Maybe there wasn't a poll. Maybe it was just the discussion. I could have sworn I threw out a poll there, but maybe it was just the discussion. This is this discussion was a rather fun one, and I asked you guys what your most hated sports athlete, personality, coach, etc. is. I wanted to see some vitriol, and I kind of got it. I got some good answers from both Chiefs fans and non-Chiefs fans. So let's just look at these and see what we got going on here. So on Instagram, we got a couple of good answers here. Okay, so the first one that I got on Instagram was Joe Buck. Oh, baby. Let's just say that Joe Buck is. I really don't know what to say about him because, frankly speaking, I don't think he's as bad as everyone says he is. I don't think he has it out for KC per se, but he's not a good commentator. I mean, I'm not going to sing his praises by any stretch, especially with a guy like Troy Aikman standing right beside him. I've never liked that duo of guys. That he seems Joe Buck seems emotionless for one. Number two, he gets off topic. Number three, he doesn't know a ton about the game that he talks about, whether that be football or baseball. And he's not a great commentator. Again, do I think he has it out for Kansas City? No. I think that's a very interesting call. I get it. He wasn't the nicest to us in the 2014 and 2015 World Series, but I mean, what are you gonna do? Those teams, you guys are acting like those teams were world beaters. No, both of those teams should not have been there. But Royals baseball found a way, and they did it. And I think Joe Buck was a little perturbed about that one. But moving on here, let's get around to the second Instagram one, Skip Bayless, from my boy Brett Doze. Oh, Skip. Dumbest takes in the entire world. What he said about mental health. I don't know if you remember a year or so ago with Dak Prescott and campaigning for mental health awareness, and Skip just kind of was just like, well, mental health problems don't make you a good QB. Basically, I'm paraphrasing here, obviously, but he's basically saying quarterbacks have to be robots, or athletes have to be robots, which is not true at all. I mean, athletes are human beings too, and it was there. that was upsetting comments, but it's not the first time Skip has said something dumb. Had to wet my whistle there for a second. Um, but it's not the first time Skip has said something stupid. I think we all know that. The guy's a big Dallas Cowboys fan. He's a big Texas sports fan in general, so that's already an ick for me. Um, but he just says off the rail stuff that doesn't really pertain to the conversation that much. I mean, he's lucky to have, in my opinion, he's lucky to have Shannon Sharp, who is definitely his foil, the better half of that foil, I should say. I love Shannon Sharp. I think he's hilarious, very outspoken, very witty, and just kind of has that humor about him. And yeah, maybe he doesn't, have the best taste in the world, but he's a heck of a lot better than Skip. So I agree with you, Brett. I truly do. Here's where it gets ugly, though, folks, because on Instagram we had a Raiders fan appearance. That Raiders fan being my rugby coach, Derek Pearson, coach of the Kansas City Blues, who said Patrick Mahomes and Troy Aikman. One of those I agree with. Obviously, the Troy Aikman one, I think he's a heavily overrated quarterback and broadcaster. Yeah, the guy won a couple Super Bowls, but look at the team that was around him. And just look at his stats. I don't think he was an integral part to the Super Bowl runs that they had, and they ran into what's the word for it? A very unlucky, if you know the word for it, star-crossed. I think I don't know, but a very unlucky Bills squad that went to 4 Super Bowls and lost. That definitely helped. Not saying those Bills teams weren't phenomenal, because they were, but kind of losers when it came to the Super Bowl. Troy Aikman's an overrated player. He's an overrated sports broadcaster too. I think half the time when he talks, he sounds drunk. It's very simple-minded broadcasting. He's not very in-depth when it comes to the game. I think Joe Buck says more stuff of substance than he does sometimes. And, every now and then he'll have a pretty good quote, but I prefer the CBS crew way more. Obviously, we're an AFC country, so, it just makes sense. But I prefer the CBS crew way more. And I still find Tony Romo kind of annoying, but at least he knows what he's talking about. So, but as is tradition for Raiders fans, he had to throw some hate towards Patrick Mahomes. Okay, Derek. So listen. I know you're not new here. I know you've lived around Kansas City in the past. But you got to understand that Patrick Mahomes is a god here. You can't go around slandering his name. In certain parts of the city, that might actually get you shot. But, God. We've talked about it, and I'm going to have him on an interview later. I think, obviously, being a Raiders fan, it's obligation to hate the guy who's been dominating you these past couple years. These aren't the Alex Smith years anymore. You guys don't have a chance still. Yes, even with Devontae Adams, you don't. It's because Derek Carr's mid. Derek Carr's so overrated. At least in the eyes of Raiders fans. Just face facts, man. Come on. We'll talk more about it once we get you on an interview, but appreciate the comment, I guess. Random Raiders fan making an appearance. Let's see here. What else we got going? I know we had a couple Facebook comments as well, wherever they are at. Okay. Maybe not on Facebook, but there were a couple on the website. So, well, actually, hold on. Because I may have commented on one of the shares. My apologies. Facebook is kind of to navigate. Okay, never mind. Maybe I didn't get comments on the Facebook. Moving on to the website. Let's go here. KC Sports Talk. Oh, shit. Give me 1 sec. No, not that. That's a lie. Oops. Where are you? There you are. All right. Sorry, that took a while to find for one reason or another. But my mom actually commented on this one, the post that I had made. She said, "You are so my kid, but add Baker Mayfield and Kareem Hunt to that list." The snub at the KU game with the handshakes, and then obviously Kareem Hunt being an abuser as well, mentioning Tyreek Hill in my article. I kind of feel bad for Baker Mayfield at this point. I think he got absolutely duped by the Browns, just completely screwed over. Do I think he's the best quarterback in the world? Absolutely not. Do I think he's a great personality? Absolutely not. I mean, his Browns teammates have quoted him as saying he's childish and he's playing video games all the time, and just this. He's not a leader in the locker room. Is that enough to get you completely screwed over by your organization, who ends up hiring a alleged rapist in your place? I wouldn't think so. I think we may see a point where the Browns are running Wildcat next year because their quarterback is suspended for a year. Quarterback that they paid $230 million for, mind you. So we'll just have to see. But Baker in college was Baker in college. He was a turd. Yeah, he shouldn't have done some of the things that he did, but I could take him or leave him at this point because he's had enough bad stuff and enough karma to where his sins of the past are forgiven, in my opinion. But going on to Kareem Hunt, obviously he's an abuser. He had, I think, a DWI in Cleveland too. Was he a good running back while he was with us? Absolutely, but he tested Andy Reid and he lost. I think when he say what you will about what happened with him and kicking that woman, whether it was self-defense or not, it still doesn't look good. I mean, at all. I think it's upsetting that, and we're going back to here, that abusers get less of a suspension than guys that just smoke pot or guys that have been caught with PEDs. I mean, obviously, like, those guys should still get punished because you're a professional athlete. You should be acting like one. But when you have guys like Ray Lewis, guys like Deshaun Watson, Kareem Hunt, Tyreek Hill, even Ezekiel Elliott, guys like that who have caught charges before over stuff that has happened involving them being a woman or child abuser. I mean, Adrian Peterson. Again, these guys are celebrated players. These guys aren't just Joe Schmo across the street. I would consider Kareem at this point to be Joe Schmo across the street. He's not going to be anything in the NFL, at least from this point. But these are guys that are either Hall of Famers already or are potential Hall of Famers. Guys that are celebrated in the league, even though that they've been proven to have done bad things, like bad things that affect other people, is what I'm getting at. And it's no different with Kareem Hunt, whether it be self-defense or not. I think, the jokes are what they are, like, he's a good kicker, spare me it. Like, if the NFL had any gall, they would suspend these guys no matter how good they were. They would, in some cases, including with the Deshaun Watson one, honestly, they'd kick him out of the league. I mean, Ray Lewis murdered someone. Or allegedly murdered someone. I don't know. It's just never made sense to me. Obviously, money makes the world go around, so things like that generally, unfortunately, get swept under the rug, and things happen the way they do. Facts of life. NFL still fun to watch. Just makes me a little uneasy rooting for some of these guys, especially when they're on my team, like Tyreek Hill and Kareem Hunt. Obviously, Kareem Hunt was not on the Chiefs for a whole lot longer because the Chiefs know at least a little bit about accountability. But hey, that's the way the donkey dances, right? So that's our show today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Thanks for reading. And everything else. Sharing, liking, etc. We'll be back next week on Sunday. I'll be getting back from a float trip. So I'll be all right. I'll be good, folks. Don't worry. But it's going to be a fun weekend for me. ScorchCast may be a little late, but it'll be on Sunday, so just be on the lookout for that. We'll probably have a bit to talk about. Probably nothing too major, but guess we'll just have to see. The sporting world is constantly changing, so we could very well see some fireworks this week. Who knows? But this is Burn KC signing off for the night. Thank you for watching.